Dave is just an ordinary guy until Sorcerer Balthazar sees in him a hidden talent for sorcery. Dave becomes Balthazar's reluctant protege and undergoes an intense course in the art of magic. But as he prepares to assist his master in defending Manhattan from a powerful adversary, Dave wonders if he will survive his training, save the city, and find his true love. In today's video, I will explain the plot, the characters, and I will try to explain the timeline. Beware, there are many spoilers. During the 8th century in Great Britain, amidst a war of sorcerers, mankind placed their faith in the powerful wizard Merlin. He chose to pass on his magical knowledge to 3 trusted apprentices, Balthazar, Maxim, and Veronica. However, this decision would result in deep regret. When his castle was besieged by his greatest threat, Morgana Le Fay, Merlin managed to subdue her and prepared to destroy her. But at the worst moment, Maxim, one of his apprentices, betrayed him. This allowed Morgana to access Merlin's texts and obtain the spell The Awakening, a powerful magic capable of raising an army of the dead to enslave humanity. Balthazar attempted to intervene, but Morgana easily defeated him and prepared to kill him. At that critical instant, Veronica intervened, sacrificing herself to save Balthazar by absorbing Morgana's soul within herself. However, Morgana's power began consuming Veronica from within, endangering her life. So with all options to save Veronica and contain Morgana exhausted, Balthazar decided to imprison them in the Grimhold, an inescapable prison. Over time, Morgana's followers fought against Balthazar, trying to free their leader, but they were defeated and also ended up imprisoned in the Grimhold, including the traitor Maxim. Before his death, Merlin entrusted Balthazar with his dragon ring, reassuring him that it would guide him to his successor, the Supreme Merlinian. This would be the only one with enough power to annihilate Morgana for good. Balthazar then spent centuries traveling across Africa, Asia, and Europe, searching for the chosen one, but no luck. Now let's fast forward to the year 2000, where we meet David and his dog Tank. During a school field trip, David lets his crush Rebecca see his true feelings, and she seems to feel the same way. David then passes her a note to decide between being just friends or boyfriend and girlfriend. But oh no, the note slips away and gets carried by the wind. David goes chasing after it and ends up arriving at an antique shop. There, after some clumsy accidents, David meets Balthazar. Realizing David's arrival was fate, Balthazar decides to show him the dragon ring, promising he can keep it if all goes well. With no way out, David agrees, and when he holds the ring, it comes alive and latches onto his finger. So Balthazar reveals to Dave that his destiny is to become the Prime Merlinian. But before starting his training, Balthazar asks Dave to stay put while he looks for an object called the Incantus. But Dave, unable to control his power yet, accidentally discovers Maxim's Grimhold. Fear takes over and Dave accidentally ends up releasing Maxim. Balthazar returns shortly after looking for the Grimhold, and Maxim takes advantage to grab his staff and start fighting. The battle between the sorcerers is totally evenly matched, both in physical strength and magic. Every attack one launches, the other counters, whether it's a staff versus ring duel or sword fight. During the battle, Dave manages to recover Morgana's Grimhold. To stop Maxim from releasing her, Balthazar makes the call to imprison them both in that magic urn previously used by a Chinese emperor to lock up one of his concubines for 10 years. Outside, Dave meets up with his class and tries to warn them about the sorcerers. But when they enter the shop, everything looks normal. Everyone except Becky makes fun of Dave's wet pants, oblivious that it was from the fire and water. 10 years later, teenage Dave still lives with his dog, Tank, but now shares an apartment with college roommate Bennett. On his birthday, Bennett suggests they go out to celebrate, but Dave has to prepare a physics presentation and finish a project. As Dave works, his papers fly to a girl's feet. Looking closely, he recognizes Becky, who also remembers him because of the past incident. Dave assures her it was just low blood sugar hallucinations. After class, Dave walks Becky to the radio station where she works. There they see lightning strike the antenna, interrupting the broadcast, but Dave uses physics to quickly fix it. After solving it, he leaves without asking Becky out, even though his friend Bennett said he should have. Dave keeps working on his electricity science project. Meanwhile, we see the magic urn holding the sorcerers is now with a Russian couple who are freaked out by its shaking. Suddenly it opens and Maxim emerges. Being first out, he tosses it so Balthazar can't follow when he gets out. That night when Dave returns home, Maxim is there. He threatens torture unless Dave reveals the Grimhold location. But Dave insists he threw it away long ago, so he runs off and Maxim summons wolves to chase him onto the subway tracks and kill him. But Balthazar arrives just in time on a metal eagle and saves Dave. Balthazar slows Maxim with a spell and flies off before the subway arrives, but it doesn't kill Maxim. Safely away, Dave tries to explain he wants no part in this after last time's trauma. But Balthazar doesn't care. He goes on about the Grimhold's importance and the Dragon Ring's connection. Dave begs for a normal life and promises after recovering the Grimhold, he'll leave Balthazar alone and release the Dragon Ring. Balthazar does an atmospheric tracking spell and discovers the Grimholds in the city center. To get there, Balthazar goes looking for his old car and on the drive starts teaching Dave some basic sorcery, explaining sorcerers can manipulate matter because they're born able to use 100% of their brains. That's why physics and molecules come so easily to Dave. The first spell he teaches is fire, which you make by vibrating matter's molecules. Meanwhile, Maxim returns to Arcana Cabana, where he sees through meditation how an old Chinese lady picked up the Grimhold that day. His focus is interrupted by a passing guy who ends up dead after facing Maxim's wrath. Balthazar and Dave, meanwhile, follow the trail to Chinatown during Chinese New Year celebrations. Balthazar soon locates the Grimhold, so he leaves Dave on lookout while he enters a Chinese medicine shop, where the owner is that old lady. Balthazar asks about the Grimhold, and she says she's not sure she's seen it, but when he speaks Cantonese, she recognizes him. Balthazar attacks, since it's really Maxim in disguise. Before Balthazar can interrogate him, Maxim introduces Sunlock, freshly freed from the Grimhold, who greets Balthazar with deadly needles. But Sunlock's no match for Balthazar, who blasts him out of the building right as Dave watches. Sunlock recognizes Dave, so he makes a dragon to capture him. Balthazar covers the whole street in confetti, trying to help, but Sunlock easily locates Dave. Upstairs, Maxim loses the Grimhold to Balthazar's spell. Cornered, Dave yells for help, revealing his spot even more. Instead of fighting, Balthazar tells Dave to focus and use his Dragon Ring, which finally works once Dave dodges the fire and gets out of Sunlock's control range. He manages his first attack against the dragon's tail. Balthazar then steps in to completely destroy Sunlock and his creature, making Maxim realize Dave's the prime Merlinian. When police arrive to contain things, Balthazar disguises them as officers and claims all dragon reports were just drunk Chinese people. He then asks for the ring back, but Dave has a change of heart and wants to keep it and learn from him. So Dave takes him to his lab and gets his own Incantus book on sorcery history and the recent events. With no time to lose, Balthazar starts Dave's training by summoning the Merlin circle that Dave must enter to learn and leave his old self behind. Inside, Balthazar explains his ring projects his nervous system's electrical energy into the physical, so a sorcerer without their ring has no power. So the teacher is still showing Dave how to whip up his most epic attack, something like a plasma missile. Even though he's the chosen one, Dave is struggling with it, even hitting himself a bunch at first. After showing him the ropes for chucking fireballs, the teacher teaches Dave how to block them with a vacuum shield. To keep Dave from getting too big for his britches, the teacher zaps him with lightning bolts from his experiment. Meanwhile, Maxim is off meeting with a Morgana cult follower to recruit some soldiers. He sends him to Drake Stone, this magician who's now a rock star thanks to his magic. Once Drake hears about Merlin coming back, he's all in. Dave takes Balthazar to grab a bite outside the radio station where Becky works, hoping Balthazar can give him some tips on how to win her over. Balthazar warns him that distractions can be bad news, but Dave doesn't listen and leaves to walk Becky home. Suddenly, a thief jumps out and nabs Becky's bracelet. Knowing how much it means to her, Dave chases the thief down, uses his magic to stop him, and gets the bracelet back. Becky is so captivated that she agrees to visit Dave's laboratory. The next day, Maxim decides Battery Park is the perfect spot for Morgan's awakening when the time is right. Back with Dave, Becky showing up interrupts his training. So, Balthazar decides to head back to Arcana Cabana to make sure the Grimhold with all the trapped souls is still secure. To impress Becky, Dave shows off his project based on the Tesla coil, making lightning bolts groove to the music. Dave and Becky get along so well that she even tags along to her yoga classes. But when Dave steps out to use the restroom, he's cornered by Drake Stone. Drake is so underwhelmed by Dave that he lets Dave attack first. but Dave can't use his magic because he's too nervous. Balthazar steps in just in time, brushes off Drake as a nobody, and opens up a magic mirror trap to catch Maxime. Despite some troubles, he manages to trap Maxime, all thanks to Drake Stone's accidental help. Later on, Dave demands Balthazar to spill the beans about Morgana and the Prime Merlinian. With no other options, Balthazar fills him in on the awakening and his history as Merlin's apprentice, all with the goal of finding the Merlinian, who turns out to be Dave because he's got Merlin's blood. However, Dave says he can't save the world, so Balthazar makes it clear he doesn't have a choice. He's already in the circle, and it's now his responsibility to free it. Only after finding the Prime Merlinian can Balthazar start aging, due to a spell by Merlin that stopped him from getting older until he finds the Supreme Sorcerer. Now free from the mirror, Maxime uses his magic to access Dave's files and discover the location of the lab. Later, after explaining to Dave that he will become the Merlinian when he can use his magic without his ring, Balthazar shows him the scroll with the soul fusion spell, something he's only seen once in his life. Once again, his training gets interrupted because Becky will be there soon, so Balthazar leaves him alone. Not wanting to waste time, Dave decides to use a cleaning spell so the brooms, mops, and sponges move on their own while he showers. But when he comes back, everything is out of control and has caused a flood. He tries to stop it, but nothing obeys him, and just as Becky arrives, he's forced to ask her to leave. Minutes later, when he's about to drown, a shock brings Balthazar back and he saves Dave just in time. Realizing that he hasn't improved at all, Dave gives up and quits being the Prime Merlinian. While figuring out what to do, he passes by a coffee shop where he sees Becky. Even though he doesn't go in, she notices him and decides to follow him to the top of a building, where she interrupts him before he can throw away the ring. She tells him that one bad date is not enough for her to hate him, so he can chill about their relationship. Meanwhile, Balthazar watches as Dave comes back asking for forgiveness. But it's all a trap because it was actually Drake in disguise, trying to capture him. Then with a puff of smoke, Maxime finds the Grimhold, and makes it clear to his old friend that he decided to work for Morgana after Veronica chose Balthazar over him. While Maxime is talking, Balthazar manages to break free and knock him down, but he's outnumbered, and his face is almost disfigured if it weren't for Dave coming back at that moment. Since they already have the Grimhold, Maxime orders a retreat, starting a chase as they can change cars whenever they want. Dave finds them moving the Grimhold with the ring, so he transforms his car into a sports car. Unwilling to lose them, Balthazar does the same. Amidst all this, Maxime uses a mirror to thrust Balthazar into a parallel universe, similar to the mirror he had previously used, and then proceeds to shatter the nearby mirrors to prevent his return. However, Balthazar manages to use the last available fragment. Maxime gets ahead again by transforming his car into a garbage truck. Dave tries to counter it, but worsens his situation by transforming his car into an old vehicle, which prevents them from getting out until Maxime and Drake are far away. Even though Balthazar tries to follow them, he falls into Maxime's trap when Maxime transforms a civilian into the spitting image of Veronica. After this, Balthazar decides to tell Dave about his relationship with Veronica, who like him wanted to have a normal life. He also shares that Maxime fell in love with her in the past, and when his feelings weren't reciprocated, decided to betray them. After showing him the jewel he was going to gift her that night, they get back to work because the world needs them. The next day at Drake's mansion, Maxime explains that to free Morgana, they need a power source from the parasite spell originated in Haiti, which allows stealing a sorcerer's energy. Drake doesn't know who they can use, but Maxime does. At that moment, he betrays Drake to cast the spell on him. Next, he releases the next layer of the Grimhold, where the prisoner Abigail Williams is. As her first job, this witch kidnaps Becky to take her to Maxime, who decides to use the parasite spell on her to continue gathering energy when he sees that she has fulfilled her role. Meanwhile, Balthazar and Dave sneak into Drake's mansion in search of the Grimhold. Here, Balthazar finds out that they plan to perform the awakening in Battery Park. At the same time, he gets caught in a Persian moving carpet. When he's about to die, he manages to grab the chains from the place and escapes certain death. On the other hand, Dave finds the Grimhold without any problems and discovers that Morgana and Veronica are in the same layer of the prison. He's immediately discovered by Maxime, who demands the Grimhold and the Dragon Ring in exchange for Becky's life. Dave, with no other options, hands over to Maxime what he wants. Only after Maxime leaves, Balthazar shows up. Despite everything, Balthazar says he gets his decision, and even though he's now on his own, he knows he's got no choice but to face the Morgana cult alone. Becky asks Dave to break down what happened, promising she'll try her best to get it. Dave lets her in on the fact that he's a wizard who can manipulate matter however he wants. As they're heading to help Balthazar, Dave crashes Bennett's hot date to ask him to join them. At the lab, Bennett passes over an envelope with the necklace Balthazar left for Veronica. With nothing more to say, they take off with Tesla's coil, cause Dave's got a plan to fight with it. Meanwhile, over at Battery Park, Maxime's getting on with freeing Morgana, who's still in Veronica's body. Morgana kicks off the awakening spell, setting up a magic circle that spans the city and using antennas to boost its reach. Dave catches on to what's going down and before going any further, sends Becky to the top of one of the antennas to jam the signal. He also asks her to tell him what she picked that day of the trip, to be his friend or his girlfriend. Becky Pinky swears she'll tell him after they take down Morgana. When Balthazar shows up, he's trying to be sneaky, but Maxime spots him. With the new power from his recently acquired rings, Maxime blocks Balthazar's plasma blasts and one-ups him by animating the metal bull statue in the park. Balthazar tries to dodge the attacks, but Maxime is hitting him relentlessly. Thanks to a little old lady, Dave gets stuck in traffic and Becky makes it to the antenna just as Morgana completes the power circle, stirring up the dead in graveyards worldwide to serve as her soldiers. When Balthazar's no more run left in him and it looks like he's toast, Dave rocks up with his Tesla coil and manages to disarm and blow Maxime away. Seeing this, the bull charges at Balthazar, but he's saved again by his metal eagle. Right then, Becky takes out the antenna, breaking the circle and knocking Morgana out cold. Balthazar decides to pull off the fusion spell to free Veronica from Morgana, but his body's too weak, and Morgana gets back some of her material body. The witch goes full tilt at them, but Dave manages to wake his internal powers and square off against her without his dragon ring, morphing into the Supreme Merlinian. Although he can't keep it up for long, Morgana gets back to her attacks and manages to wound Balthazar. Dave squares off against her again, firing plasma missiles all over. However, Morgana dodges the hits and sends them back with a plasma bombardment. Dave's shield is about to shatter, which would be game over for him, but one of his hits makes it into a high-voltage cabin and travels up the cables, which scramble up to the surrounding lamps. When Dave gives the order to juice up the electricity, it turns out he had cooked up his own Tesla coil, which gets the electrical bolts to freeze Morgana in place so Dave can pound her non-stop until finally, Morgana is toast. But the high doesn't last long, because when Dave goes to find Balthazar, he finds out his masters kicked the bucket. He can't accept it and starts to tap into all of Merlin's power with plasma missiles tuned just right to work like a defibrillator and pulls it off, bringing Balthazar back to life. When Becky shows up before she can spill what she picked that day, Dave jumps the gun and kisses her, then whisks her off on the Eagle to France, cause he's head over heels for her. Before wrapping up, it seems Maxime Horvath is still kicking, and that's the end of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. See you next time.